The Nobel Prize is awarded annually for distinguished work in chemistry, physics, psychology or medicine, literature, and international peace were made available by a fund bequeathed for that purpose by Swedish philanthropist Alfred Bernard Nobel. The prizes, awarded since 1901, are administered by the Nobel Foundation in Stockholm. In 1969, a prize for economics endowed by the Central of Sweden was added. Candidates for the prizes must be nominated in writing by a qualified authority in the field of competition. Candidates are judged by Swedish and Norwegian academies and institutes on the basis of their contribution to mankind. The awards are usually presented in Stockholm on December 10, with the King of Sweden officiating, an appropriate tribute to Alfred Nobel on the anniversary of his death. Each prize includes a gold medal, a diploma, and a cash award of about $1 million. Although stage plays have been set to music since the era of the ancient Greeks, when the drama of Sophocles and Aeschylus were accompanied by lyres and flutes, the usually accepted date for the beginning of opera as we know it is 1600. As part of the celebration of the marriage of King Henry IV of France to the Italian aristocrat Maria de' Medici, the Florentine composer Jacopo Peri produced his famous Eurydice, generally considered to be the first opera. Following his example, a group of Italian musicians called the Camerata began to revive the style of musical story that had been used in Greek tragedy. For several years, the center of opera was Florence, but gradually it spread throughout Italy and into Europe. The European form de-emphasized the dramatic aspect. New orchestral effects and even ballet were introduced under the guise of opera. Composers gave in to the demands of singers, writing many operas that were nothing more than a succession of brilliant tricks for the voice. Arias, recitatives, and duets evolved. The aria, which is long solo, may be compared to a song. The recitative, which is also a solo, is a recitation set to music, whereas the duet is a musical piece written for two voices. According to the controversial sunspot theory, great storms on the surface of the sun hurl streams of solar particles into the atmosphere, causing a shift in the weather on Earth. A typical sunspot consists of a dark central umbra surrounded by a lighter penumbra of light and dark threads extending out from the center like the spokes of a wheel. Actually, the sunspots are cooler than the rest of the photosphere, which may account for their color. Typically, the temperature in a sunspot umbra is about 4000 K, where the temperature in a penumbra registers 5500 K, and the granules outside the spot are 6000 K. Sunspot range in size from tiny granules to complex structures, with areas stretching for billions of square miles. About 500 of the spots are large enough so that they can be seen without instruments. Consequently, observation of sunspots have been recorded over several thousand years. Sunspots have been observed in arrangement of 1 to more than 100 spots, but they tend to occur in pairs. There is also a marked tendency for the two poles of a wire to have opposite magnetic polarities. Furthermore, the strength of the magnetic field associated with any given sunspot is closely related to the spot's size. Although there is no theory that completely explains the nature and the functions of sunspots, several more attempt to relate the phenomenon to magnetic fields along the lines of longitude from the north and south poles of the sun. Recent technological advances in manned and unmanned undersea vehicles have overcome some of the limitations of divers and diving equipment. Without the vehicles, divers often become sluggish and their mental concentration was limited. Because of undersea pressure that affected their speech organs, communication among divers was difficult or impossible. But today, most oceanographers make observations by means of instruments that are lowered into the ocean or from samples taken from the water. Direct observations of the ocean floor are made not only by divers but also by deep diving submarines. Some of these submarines can dive to depth of more than 7 miles and cruise at depths of 15,000 feet. Radio-equipped buoys can be operated by remote control in order to transmit information back to land-based laboratories, including data about water temperature, currents, and weather. Some of mankind's most serious problems, especially those concerning energy and food, may be solved with the help of observations made possibly by these undersea vehicles. Although speech is the most advanced form of communication, there are many ways of communicating without using speech. Signals, signs, symbols, and gestures may be found in every known culture. The basic function of a signal is to impinge upon the environment in such a way that it attracts attention, as, for example, the dots and the dashes of a telegraph circuit. Coded to revert to speech, the potential for communication is very great. Less adaptable to the codification of words, signs also contain meaning in and of themselves. A stop sign or a barber pole conveys meaning quickly and conveniently. Symbols are more difficult to describe than either signals or signs because of their intricate relationship with the receiver's cultural perceptions. In some cultures, applauding in a theater provides performers with an auditory symbol of approval. Gestures such as waving and handshaking also communicate certain cultural messages. Although signals, signs, symbols, and gestures are very useful, they do have a major disadvantage. They usually do not allow ideas to be shared without the sender being directly adjacent to the receiver. As a result, means of communication intended to be used for a long distance and extended periods are based on speech. Radio, television, and telephone are only a few. Application for admission to the graduate school at this university must be made on forms provided by the Director of Admissions. An applicant whose undergraduate work was done at another institution should request that 2 copies of undergraduate transcripts and degrees be sent directly to the dean of the graduate school. Both the application and the transcripts must be on file at least 1 month prior to the registration date and must be accompanied by a non-refundable $10 check or money order to cover the cost of processing the application. An undergraduate student of this university who has senior status and is within 10 credit hours of completing all requirements for graduation may register for graduate work with the recommendation of the chairperson of the department and the approval of the dean of the graduate school. Students who have already been admitted to the graduate school but were not enrolled during the previous semester should reapply for admission using a special short form available in the office of the graduate school. It is not necessary for students who have previously been denied admission to resubmit transcripts. However, new application forms must accompany all requests for reconsideration. A complete fertilizer is usually marked with a formula consisting of 3 numbers, such as 482 or 364, which designates the percentage content of nitrogen, phosphoric acid, and potash in the order stated. Synthetic fertilizers are available in either a solid or a liquid form. Solids in the shape of chemical granules are popular because they are easy to store and apply. Recently, liquids have shown an increase in popularity, accounting for about 20% of nitrogen fertilizer used throughout the world. Formerly, powders were also used, but these were found to be less convenient than either solids or liquids. Fertilizers have no harmful effects on the soil, the crop, or the consumer, as long as they are used according to the recommendations based on the results of local research. Occasionally, however, farmers may use more fertilizer than necessary, damaging not only the crop but also the animals or humans that eat it. Accumulations of fertilizer in the water supply accelerate the growth of algae and consequently may disturb the natural cycle of life, contributing to the death of fish. Too much fertilizer on grass can cause digestive disorders in cattle and in infants who drink cow's milk.